All right, hello everyone, and welcome again to another live stream. And yeah, as you can see, I'm back to my my usual setting, to my home. And I think for those of you who were present last time on Friday, would have noticed how tired I was because I had so much work and I had like a lot of things to do. So today, I'm fully recovered. I'm very I feel that I'm quite energetic today compared to the last time. So today we are going to see part three of the story of the United States. So as we have started the before, we were watching starting from last Tuesday. We started talking about the history of the United States from prehistory until today. Okay, the full video, of course, is always on our channel, but for our live streams, we only cover one chapter at a time. So that's basically what we do. Amin is here. Amin, hello. How are you, Amin? How were your holidays? Yeah, so today watching while doing homework. I see. All right. I try most of the time. I try not to give my students homework because it's really sometimes it can be frustrating. But there is nothing to do sometimes. Kumar, I'm doing very well, thank you. What about you? So I'm gonna share with you my screen. As I said, today we will have the story of the United States number three, so the third part, and we are going to listen to chapter number three, I think, or four, and number four. So basically, the first chapter that we listened to was about the discovery of the United States. Who were the first groups who arrived to the United States? The second live stream, which was last Friday, was about the independence war between between Americans and the British. And today we are going to see another chapter in the history of the United States, and we are going to start with a question that is not related to today's chapter, which is uh, what is the biggest plan for this week? So, what is your biggest task that you need to do this week? Of course, like throughout the week, we have a lot of things on our mind that we need to do. So, what is the biggest plan? What is the biggest task that is waiting for you to start this week? For me, I think it's making other videos on my personal channel because I haven't posted for like a couple of days, for a couple of weeks actually, and I need to go back to posting on my personal channel. What about you guys? What is your biggest plan for this week? The biggest task, the biggest thing that you need to do. So for me, as I said, it's starting again. I see Animal 4K doing is here. Welcome. I mean, is helping me like welcome people to the live stream. Thank you so much. I mean, always very helpful. Of course, before we go into today's chapter, which is chapter number four, I will review with you what happened in the previous chapters. But if you don't have time, or if you want to watch like the chapters like in depth, you can go to our YouTube channel, wooenglish.com, and or you English on YouTube, and you can watch the history of America. This one, it's level three. So I think most of you will be more than able to follow with it, and it's 1 hour and 40 minutes, so it's a long video with a lot of details, a lot of vocabulary, a lot of grammatical points that you can like learn just from listening. And at the same time, you are taking a lot of information about the history of the United States. But for the live streams, I help you by going with you through one chapter at a time, so that we can cover it, we can discuss it, we can focus on certain vocabulary, and we can like learn some grammar points. I can help you if there is like anything difficult with it. So you are reading the chapter, but there is someone that can help you like go through it even faster and better. So what is your biggest plan? I'm still waiting for your answers. Amin says, I don't really know. I don't have a big task like that important or as a challenge. It's totally fine. It's totally fine. We don't always need to have a big task or big plan. But my piece of the best piece of advice that I can give you is, yes, it's chapter four. Animal 4K. Did you attend with us the previous chapters, or this is your first one? I was saying that one piece of advice that I want to give you is to eat that frog. This is the name of a book, by the way, where I got this idea from. Eat that frog. Basically, it says that for all of us, we have big tasks, like a lot of projects or things that we need to do during our day. But unfortunately, sometimes we don't want to work on them because we are afraid of failure sometimes. So what we do? We procrastinate, right? We let it until later, and at the end of the day, we don't do them. So eat that frog. The idea of this like technique is to simply wake up in the morning and start with your biggest, the most difficult task. Okay. Uh, Perfect. A good participation for me. I'm improving a big task. Wonderful. Maybe I mean, since you are a student, I think one of the best things, especially like in English or in languages in general, the best thing that you can do in school is to take the initiative and like do some presentations or go to the board and speak about something. Maybe you will not be comfortable in the beginning, but that's one of the best skills that you can learn is speaking in front of people. Believe me, you will you because after you get like your degree, your high school degree, you will need to speak in front of people. All right, so since you guys don't have like big tests for this week, so I'm gonna go to the first quiz, and through the first quiz I want to review with you what some of you maybe may remember or may not remember from the previous live streams, or even for those of you who were not with us, you will be able to know what happened in chapter number 2 and chapter number 3. I didn't cover chapter number 1 because it didn't have like a lot of information in it, but for chapter 2 and 3, it had the biggest events that happened in the history of the United States. So let's see. So memory. So I want to help you to memorize or to remember what happened before. Order the following events. So wait a second. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So these are 6 events that happened in America. All right, in the previous 2 chapters. I want you to order them. And how are you going to order them? You need just to tell me. For example, I'm going to help you with the first 2. All right. I'm gonna help you with the first 2, or I'm gonna just give examples. So you can tell me, for example, number 5, number 6, number 1, number 2, or number, for example, 3. For instance, number. So just give me the number, the first sentence followed by the second sentence. Give me just the number of the sentence in the correct order. And practice all awesome, awesome. Tito, public speaking, absolutely. Well, it's not when you are just practicing it like with someone or with yourself. It's not really public speaking. Like public speaking is quite different. But I really like it when one of my students takes the initiative and comes to the board and shares something with his friends or with his classmates. I really like that. It's because it's beneficial to that student who comes to the board more because those are his students, his classmates. So since they are used to them, or since you are used to your classmates, you will be more comfortable to speak in front of them. But you will also learn to speak in front of anyone later on. I hope my idea is clear. So those are your classmates. You see them every day for like a whole year, so that you need to be comfortable speaking in front of them. When I follow these videos, I cannot understand this full version. Now, what can I do? It's totally fine if you can't understand like the full video, all right? That's not the task, is not to understand every single word. But if you can just get the main idea from each page, that's great. All right? And it shows that you are improving. Because maybe when you just started learning English, you couldn't understand anything. Amin says 5 meaning Vikings, uh, 4, Columbus. 6, War of Independence. 2, Declaration of Independence. 3, the arrival of the Mayflowers. That's late. That's early. I mean, that's something that happened early. Okay. Again, what I'm doing right now, let me see. I mean, how do you write? It's not Eliphian or something like that. What does it mean? I mean, Eliphian. I'm not familiar with this word. So this is for Kumar as well. Here Amin wrote a word that I don't understand. It's totally fine if you don't understand all the words. Yeah. What was I saying? Yeah, I was saying that. Um, uh, so these events are what you missed if you missed the previous two live streams. But if you haven't, it's totally fine. It's fine. Really, I don't remember. I don't remember. I didn't say Elefine. Maybe I said something and you heard that. Ah, maybe I said it's fine. I said it's fine. I mean, I said it's fine. Probably that's what I said. Or maybe I said it's totally fine. It's totally fine. Maybe I said one of these two words. Four is number one. Good. Tito, I think you didn't attend our first live stream because in our live stream we corrected that. So let me. I think I'm gonna share with you the like the solution because I don't want to waste a lot of time. So the first here is actually the arrival of the Vikings. The first group that arrived to the United States were like they came from Europe or from Asia rather, from Asia, right? That's the Amerindians, the American Indians. Let me show them to you. So these are the Amerindians. All right. Or the indigenous, the Native Americans, Native Americans. Let me see if I because there is a little bit of nudity in the pictures, like all right. I really love this picture, and I'm gonna show this picture. So these are the first people who lived in America, in North America and South America, right? These are the first people who lived there. And this is before the arrival of Europeans. Okay, this is before the arrival of Europeans. All right, so we have these guys. I think you've seen them in movies and stuff. So these were the first people to arrive to the United States. They arrived through Asia, actually, from the other side of the America of the United States. So after them, the first Europeans were the Vikings, and after that came Columbus. So Columbus was the second one to arrive. Okay, he arrived very late. Christopher Columbus, he arrived like 600 years late, or 400 years late. After that, the British arrived. So this is number three. All right, the British, they were escaping Britain because they had a lot of religious problems with the church there. After that, there was the American, before the American independence, there was the Boston Tea Party protest. What is this? So basically, when the British arrived on the Mayflower, Britain decided to control America. So America was controlled by Britain, by the UK, by England. All right. So America was controlled by England. And what England did is that they tried, or they started raising the taxes. They started asking Americans for more and more money. The Americans didn't like it. And one of the ways in which they protested, all right, the high taxes that the British were like asking them for is to throw tea, because the British used to send tea to the United States. So they took the tea and they throw it in the ocean, and they called that the Boston Tea Party because it happened in Boston, in America. So let me see if I can find a picture. Boston. So Boston Tea Party is, so the Tea Party is basically a form of protest. So people didn't like America or Britain controlling them. So what did they do? They said, "You like this tea? Okay, we're gonna throw it in the ocean," and they throw it in the ocean. All right, here is the picture of what happened on that day. So this is a painting. So there were ships, and the people started throwing the sea in the ocean as a protest that they didn't like England. And after that, what happened? The American War of Independence. They started fighting for their independence uh, with England, and finally there was the Declaration of Independence signed, I think, in 1776. So this is a brief history of what happened in chapter number 2 and number 3. If you want to watch them, you can always go to our channel and watch them there. But for now, let's see what you know about what we will see today. So today we will focus on chapter number 4. Chapter number 4 is about the American Civil War. So after the Independence War, after the War of Independence, there was the Civil War. So Civil War is when people of the same country are fighting, right? So I have some questions just to see before we listen, before we read. I want to see what you already know. Who participated in the Civil War in America? The North and the Southern states? America versus Britain, or France and Britain? So who was fighting in the American Civil War? Was it the northern states of America and the southern states? Was it Americans fighting the British, or was it the French fighting the British in America? So who was fighting, A, B, or C? Amin says it's B, America and Britain. Sorry, I'm not. I didn't see these all these your Tito. Sorry, I didn't see your answer. Red Indians, yes. Why do they call them Indians? Why do they call them Indians? Because when Christopher Columbus arrived, he thought that he was in India while he was in America. That's why they call them Indians. Can you say, if I follow this Learn English through the storybook, how it helped me to learn English? It helps you when you are listening, when you learn your language. Your language. What is your language, Kumar? I think it's Indian or Pakistani or something. So when you were a little kid, no one showed you the rules. Okay, you didn't take a book and started revising or learning vocabulary. You simply were playing like with your mother and father or with your brothers and sisters, and you were learning the language. That's how you learn it, when you are listening to stories. Vocabulary about the topic. Amin is doing a great job explaining. Thank you, Amin. B, A. Tito says A. Bengali is your language. So when you were learning Bengali, did anyone teach you the rules, or did anyone teach you the vocabulary? You said, hey, today you are going to learn, hey, Kumar, today you are going to learn 5 vocabulary related to this topic, okay? No, you were simply playing as a little kid and you were learning the language. That's what we try to do in our channel. You are listening to a story and you are learning at the same time. A. All right, let's check. So Amin says B, but all right, it's A. So it's a civil war. In a civil war, it's people from the same country fighting each other. America and Britain, that's the independence war. Independence war. But for the civil war, it's Americans fighting Americans. So it's Americans fighting Americans. When did the Civil War start? In your opinion, again, I'm not expecting you to get all the questions correct, but I just want to say what do you already know, right? That's what I want to say. Kumar, did I answer your question? I hope I did. Amin says 1776. I hope you understood what happened. So basically, there is a land, there is America. First came the Amerindians, or the natives, then the Vikings, but the Vikings, they left. And then Columbus came and he told the Europeans, well, there is a big land, you come and live there. And Europeans started coming to America. And then British said, hey, I wanna control America. So they started controlling America. And then Americans say, hey, we want our freedom. We don't want England to control us. So they started fighting against England. They gained their independence. And then when they finished fighting England, they started fighting each other. All right. That's basically what happened. Well, 1776, I mean, that's when America got its independence. But for the Civil War, it started in 1861. Finally, who was the president during the Civil War? Again, I'm not expecting that you know this answer, but if you do, and know the answer, that will be perfect. You can just guess. If you don't know, just guess. I have more people. So, who was the president? Civil War, it's people fighting against people. It's like Americans fighting against Americans. But who was the president there? Why didn't he do anything? C. Tito Life, C. Kumar, and C. Amin. And you guys are absolutely correct. It was Abraham Lincoln. Perfect. Washington was the first American president, and he was the president during the Civil War when America was fighting Britain, was trying to say, Britain, go away, go to your land. But after they finished fighting England, they started fighting each other. So we are now going to see some vocabulary. I want to show you 5 words that you will hear when we are listening or when we are reading. So I want you to learn them now so that when we go and start reading, you will understand them when you see them. Address, famous, destroy, independence, fair. What you need to do is to tell me number 1, for example, address. What is the synonym? Is it free, A, ruin, B, speech, C, just D, or well-known, E? Just write for me the letter and the number. The letter and the number. For example, number 1 and which number here? Exactly. And that's what we call it civil war. It's civil. It's just people fighting each other. It happened in Spain. It happened in a lot of countries. Like people, they just started fighting each other. We call those civil war. Civil war. It's people fighting each other, basically. They are from the same country. All right. I want to start. I will start. So famous is well known. Here is one. So famous is well known because you guys, I need to wake you up. 2 is E. Here is one. I already fixed this one. All right. All right, Kumar. Great. Kumar did this before, by the way. He did it before I did it. Okay, Kumar got number 2 correct. So number 2 is E. What about the others? Destroy, independent, fair, address. What is C? Address is speech. Okay. 1 is C. 3 is B. I'm gonna just write. I'm just gonna go like a little bit fast because you guys need to wake up because I keep waiting for you and you guys don't do anything. 3 is B. All right. I think Kumar agrees with Tito. 4 is A. Okay, sure. 4 is A. And finally, we are left with, I think the only one that we didn't do is D. So 5 is D. Let's see. Let's see. All right. 1 is C, 2 is A, 3 is B, 4 is A, 5 is D. So we got it correct. Perfect. So now we are going to do our first reading. Before we do, I want to explain, I want to agree with you on 3 things. First, listen carefully because after you listen, we will listen to the first chapter, to the 4th chapter. After you listen and read, I will ask you some questions and I want you to be able to answer them for me. And I want you to participate, by the way. So listen carefully so that you can participate and not just watch passively, right? You guys need to start participating because that really helps you. Number 2, don't hesitate to ask. Even when we are listening and reading, we are listening to the audio and reading what the text on the screen. If you find a word you don't understand, let me know. Just ask me in the chat, say, hey, what does that word mean? I will pause the video, I will explain it, and then we can move on. All right? Number 3, I want to ask you to like this video. So, because I didn't ask you today. So I want you to like this video and comment done. So when you like the video, say done, and then we are going to do our first reading and listening. So listen carefully and pay attention to the information in the chapter, because after that, what will happen? You will be answering some questions. Number 2, if you find anything that you don't understand, you can ask me in the chat. You can say, hey, I don't understand this word, and I will say, all right, it means this and that. Number three, I want you to like this video as a form of supporting us and tell me in the chat done so that I know that you like this video. Done in the past. Perfect. I mean, thank you. I know you did it from the very beginning. Great. Thank you so much, guys. That's more than enough for me. Even if just like three people, that's totally fine. You guys deserve to start our first reading. So let's go. And you let me know, of course, if like if something not clear or if the audio is not audible or something.
Chapter 4. The Civil War. The young country grew quickly, and by the middle of the 19th century, it had 31 million people. But there were serious differences between the North and the South. And in 1861, a terrible war started. At least 600,000 people died in the battles or from disease. The war began because the southern states kept slaves to work in the cotton fields, but slaves were not allowed in the North. People from the South wanted to have slaves in the new lands of the West, but people from the North argued against this. In 1860, Abraham Lincoln was elected 16th President of the USA. He belonged to the Republican Party, which did not want people to have slaves. On the 24th of December, South Carolina said that it wanted to be independent, and the other southern states soon followed. The fighting began on the 12th of April, 1861, at Fort Sumter. The South had some of the best soldiers. One was the famous Robert E. Lee, and they had plenty of money from selling their cotton to Britain. But the North had more men and more factories. They also had Lincoln, one of the best presidents that the USA has ever had. He was born on a farm in Kentucky, but he worked hard in order to learn as much as he could. Lincoln made the Republican Party strong and spoke about rights and freedom. A very important battle was won by the soldiers of the North at Gettysburg in Pennsylvania in 1863. Lincoln spoke there afterwards about the brave soldiers who had died. This became known as the Gettysburg Address and contains the famous words, "Government of the people, by the people, for the people." Two famous soldiers helped the North to win the war. General Sherman is remembered in a famous song that tells the story of how he took 60,000 of his soldiers on a journey of 400 kilometers from Atlanta in Georgia to the Atlantic coast. In this way, he cut a wide path through the southern states, and after that, it was hard for the armies of the South to join together and fight the North. After the war, Sherman became head of the American Army. General Ulysses S. Grant represented the North at Appomattox in 1865, when the South, under Lee, accepted that they had lost the war. Grant was very fair to Lee's soldiers, who did not have to go to prison. Some years later, in 1868, he became president. Sadly, on the 14th of April, 1865, 5 days after the end of the war, President Lincoln was shot at the theater by a man called John Wilkes Booth, who hated Lincoln and was angry about the war. After Lincoln's death, the new president was not strong enough to bring the North and the South together, and people continued to argue about the rights of black people. During the Civil War, Louisa May Alcott wrote her famous book, Little Women, about a family of 4 girls living at home in the North with their mother, while their father was away at the war. Another very famous book, and later film, about the war is Gone with the Wind, written in 1936. It tells the story of Scarlett O'Hara, a rich young girl who lived comfortably in the southern state of Georgia when her life is destroyed by the war. Chapter 5: The Wild West.
All right. So I think that was it for chapter number 4, and I can see that you guys didn't find like a lot of difficulty. It was super easy. You can confirm for me that in the chat. How was chapter number 4? Was it easy to understand? Was it difficult? I'm not sure. You tell me. But at the same time, I'm gonna know by asking you some questions. So let me share with you again my questions screen, and we'll go to the first one. The Civil War. So is this true or false? The Civil War began because of slavery differences. Is this true? Is this false? What do you think? Easy, perfect. Five out of 4. What does that mean? Like it's good? The Civil War began because of slavery. Is that true or is that false? I think like this you will see it better. True. Tito says true. What about the others? True. Amin says true. Kumar says true. All right. You guys all share the same opinion. Absolutely. So can you imagine? Can you imagine that after Americans got their independence from Britain, they started fighting each other about whether they should or should not have slaves, whether they should or should not like have people like own them, because this is the worst thing is that when slavery means doesn't mean that you are employing the person doesn't work for you, you own him, he is your you own him, he is your like possession, right? That's what was bad, absolutely. So the war began because the North. All right, let me ask you who was for slavery, who was supporting slavery, and who was against slavery. So in all the states of America, who was for the state for slavery, they wanted slavery, and who did not want slavery. Let's see if you really understand what's going on. Why the Americans were fighting in the 19th century. No one really. You don't remember? You don't remember? It was mentioned, by the way, in the text that we have just watched. Americans in the 19th century were fighting. Perfect. This is one. This is all right. That's it. That's it. Absolutely. So basically, Americans were fighting because the northern states were against slavery. They said slavery is not ethical. We cannot like buy another person. While the South, they were for slavery. Why? Because in the South, they had farms, they have cotton farms, and they needed people to work there. So they said, all right, employ someone and pay them a salary. No, no, no. I want to buy a person. And if a slave, by the way, like this is how awful slavery was. If you have a slave, someone that you own, or someone that someone owns, right? And he marries and he has kids, those kids are are born slaves by default. They are slave by default. Can you imagine being born and you are a slave like from birth, just because your father was a slave because he was brought from Africa to work in cotton fields. It was an awful period. Krishna is my name, and Kumar is the title little of my name. You can call Krishna. Sure. Oh, sure, sure, Krishna. Sure, man. Okay, Krishna. Sure. Okay. So, sorry sometimes if I like mistake your names. I don't understand. Uh, uh, so the war. All right. Abraham Lincoln was born in the South. Is that true? Is that false? From what we have listened to. By the way, we're gonna listen to it for the second time, just to like understand it more. But you need to tell me if is this true or false. Was Abraham Lincoln, who was the president, in the depth of it was an economic conflict? I completely agree. I completely agree. Because in the South, they wanted cheap people. They want to buy someone, and if that someone has a baby, they have the baby too. So you own the baby too. So they wanted more people to work for them, and basically, you don't even pay them. You don't pay them money. You just give them food. That's it. They live in the field, and they work from sundown from dawn to dusk. They work all the day, and you can beat them, you can do whatever you want. It was an awful period of time, unfortunately. Human beings are an awful species. It's false, right? He was born in the North. The North had more resources than the South. Is this true? Is this false? More resources. During the war, who had more resources? Did you guys go to sleep? Because I see like I can hear crickets in the chat. I can hear the crickets. This is what I hear in the chat right now. This is what I'm hearing in the chat. Come on, people, you need to wake up. I guess it's true. Okay, you are still there. All right, you guys think it's true. Maybe it's difficult, yet it is true. So the North had more men and more factories. So the North had more factories, and when we say more factories, that means more guns, all right? More arms, more weapons as well, and also more men. Okay, so there was a little bit of advantage in the North. Next one, Lincoln Gettysburg Address. Address means speech, so he gave a speech. Talked about people's freedom. Is that true or is that false? Because after he won, so Gettysburg is basically a very famous place where there was a very famous battle where the North won. And after they won, Lincoln, who was the president at the time, he went there and he gave a speech. So I'm going to share it. It's true. All right. It contains the famous word of the people, by the people, and for the people. So he wanted people to be free. All right. Which was amazing. John Wilkes Booth admired Lincoln. True. All right. I think you are talking about the previous one. So the previous one was true. What about this one? John Wilkes Booth admired, he really loved Lincoln. He said, this is the best president in the history of the United States. So, I mean, if it is wrong, if it is false, what's true then? What's true? Why do you think that's not true? The men really, really liked Abraham Lincoln. Come on. False. Same. Uh, wait. Krishna. Same. You said it's false. Can you guys tell me why do you think that's true? He didn't like him? How do you know he didn't like him? How do you know? How do you know? He hated Abraham Lincoln. How do you know? How do you guys know? I read this lesson. All right, but how do you know? There is still a more important thing there that we know that the men really hated Abraham Lincoln. I'm looking for a picture, by the way. So as you are thinking about it, why do you think the men really hated him? I'm looking for a picture, but unfortunately, the internet is not helping me. It's not helping me much. Okay. He hated him. He hated him, like Krishna says, and like Amin said. Why? So John Wilkes Booth, he absolutely didn't like. He didn't like Lincoln. He liked slavery. And how do we know that? Because he killed Lincoln. Lincoln was watching a play in the theater, and Booth came from the back and he shot Abraham Lincoln. So he really hated him. He wanted slavery to stay. All right, he was so like so like so attached to slavery that he killed the men who helped fight slavery. And this actually is a real. This is a real page of the newspaper that appeared after the day of the assassination of Lincoln. So Lincoln shot, condition considered hopeless. So because he died later on. So yeah, the men absolutely did not admire Lincoln. He hated him and he killed him after that. The second reading or the second listening right now. So let's see if Lincoln talking to a 22-year-old. I'm 20 year old. I know about many things by reading books such as Abraham Lincoln. Wonderful, wonderful man. Cool. That's super cool. I think there is a whole video about Abraham Lincoln in our channel. Okay, so let's listen for the second time, and I need to go back to chapter 4. What is chapter 4? All right, here's chapter 4. So we are going to listen to the second time, and as we always do, second time will be like we will speed it up so that you can get used to listening to fast words. So let's listen.
Chapter 4. The Civil War. The young country grew quickly, and by the middle of the 19th century, it had 31 million people. But there were serious differences between the North and the South. And in 1861, a terrible war started. At least 600,000 people died in the battles or from disease. The war began because the southern states kept slaves to work in the cotton fields, but slaves were not allowed in the North. People from the South wanted to have slaves in the new lands of the West, but people from the North argued against this. In 1860, Abraham Lincoln was elected 16th President of the USA. He belonged to the Republican Party, which did not want people to have slaves. On the 24th of December, South Carolina said that it wanted to be independent, and the other southern states soon followed. The fighting began on the 12th of April, 1861, at Fort Sumter. The South had some of the best soldiers. One was the famous Robert E. Lee, and they had plenty of money from selling their cotton to Britain. But the North had more men and more factories. They also had Lincoln, one of the best presidents that the USA has ever had. He was born on a farm in Kentucky, but he worked hard in order to learn as much as he could. Lincoln made the Republican Party strong and spoke about rights and freedom. A very important battle was won by the soldiers of the North at Gettysburg in Pennsylvania in 1863. Lincoln spoke there afterwards about the brave soldiers who had died. This became known as the Gettysburg Address. It contained the famous words, "Government of the people, by the people, for the people." Two famous soldiers helped the North to win the war. General Sherman is remembered in a famous song that tells the story of how he took 60,000 of his soldiers on a journey of 400 kilometers from Atlanta in Georgia to the Atlantic coast. In this way, he cut a wide path through the southern states. And after that, it was hard for the armies of the South to join together and fight the North. After the war, Sherman became head of the American Army. General Ulysses S. Grant represented the North at Appomattox in 1865, when the South, under Lee, accepted that they had lost the war. Grant was very fair to Lee's soldiers, who did not have to go to prison. Some years later, in 1868, he became president. Sadly, on the 14th of April, 1865, 5 days after the end of the war, President Lincoln was shot at the theater by a man called John Wilkes Booth, who...
This is what we talked about. So the man was very angry at the war. He didn't like Lincoln stopping or ending slavery, so he said,
hated
I'm going
Lincoln
to end your
and
life.
was angry about the war. After Lincoln's death, the new president was not strong enough to bring the North and the South together, and people continued to argue about the rights of black people. During the Civil War, Louisa May Alcott wrote her famous...
So these are some works, some like literary works, all right? Like some literature, like novels or plays that were written either during the Civil War or about the Civil War. This was a really important period during the history of the United States.
famous book, Little Women, about a family of 4 girls living at home in the North with their mother, while their father was away at the war. Another very famous book, and later film, about the war is Gone with the Wind, written in 1936. It tells the story of Scarlett O'Hara, a rich young girl who was...
Of course, sorry for interrupting you again, or interrupting your listening again. These are very important books, Little Women and Gone with the Wind. You can find them also as movies. You can watch them and see what was happening during the war, because these two books and also movies, they tell us exactly, like in details, how were people living and what were like the tragedies that happened during the Civil War of America.
living comfortably in the southern state of Georgia when her life is destroyed by the war. Chapter
All right,
5.
that's it. We don't want no chapter 5, just chapter 4, please. All right, the second reading or the second listening, we have just done that. We are going to move to answer the questions. What work did slaves do in the southern states? So we said today we are focusing on the Civil War. The Civil War happened between the states in the north and the states in the south. The states in the north wanted slaves. The states in the south or didn't want slaves. The states in the south wanted slaves. They were fighting. But what were these slaves doing after all? Like, why were they so important to the south that they wanted to fight to keep them as slaves in their like form? So why? What were they doing? So what work did slaves do? I really love the conversation going on between Krishnu and Amin. In the chat, it's about like improving English and stuff. Cotton, absolutely, absolutely, yeah. So that was like what they mainly did. So they used to work in cotton fields. Yeah, it was a really rough work. Let me see if I can find like pictures of how that happened. Unfortunately, my internet is so slow, so I can't show you pictures. So I'm gonna just like stay here. Next one. Come on. All right. Which side had more men and more factories? Again, from our listening that we have just done. Which side? Was it the north? Was it the south who had more men and factories? Pamela, hey, how are you? Amin says the southern states. North, but Krishna says it's the north. I mean, probably since he is doing his homework, probably is not paying a lot of attention today. It's the north. I mean, the south, they had more experience in fighting because they had a lot of guns. And by the way, even today in 2024, the south are still like more conservative than the north, and also they really like guns more. So, next question. This is super slow today. Who made the Gettysburg Address? It was a speech. So it was a speech. It came after a war that happened in Gettysburg. So who wrote that? I think the North. You are correct. Lincoln, Lincoln, and Lincoln. All right, that's exactly the person who made this. Okay. What did General Sherman's soldier do in the South? I think this one is quite specific. I don't remember, to be honest. I don't remember. Though I prepared this question and the answer and everything, but I don't remember the answer to this one. So, what did General Sherman's soldiers do in the South? I really don't remember this question. Weird. Okay. All right, remember it now. I cheated. I'm gonna show it. Maybe you guys. He took a journey through the South, making it hard for Southern Army to join together. So like they split, but it was a long journey. It was like 400 kilometers. So that's why it's very famous. Last question. I think it's quite easy. How did Lincoln die? Abraham Lincoln. How did he die? Did he die in war? Did he die after war? Did he die of a like disease? Did he die during a pandemic? How did he die? How did Lincoln die? Abraham Lincoln. Shot. I mean, said shot. Who did he shot? During the pandemic. Really? During the COVID pandemic, probably. To be more specific. Well, like Amin said, he died, he was shot. He was shot by John Wilkes Booth. All right, vocabulary. This is the last question, or this is the last activity that we have today. So I have some words for you that are related to what we have seen today. The words are argue, govern, journey, soldiers, and address. And this is the sentences where you need to use them. You can very simply write for me number one and then write the word that goes in number one. Number two, and write the word that goes into number two. No need. And of course, I know you won't do it. You won't write the whole sentence, but I'm just reminding you. Killed. Tito, absolutely, he was killed. One, Amin says argue. I think I'm gonna need to remove this. Amin says number one, argue. Let's check. Absolutely argue. Yeah. Amin is always fast with these like gap filling exercises. I'm always impressed how fast he can. No. Krishna, it's address. Krishna says number 1 is journey, but we said it's argue actually. Number 3 is soldiers. Tito, wake up, my man. Where have you gone? All right. Number 2 is address. Address meaning speech. So the president made a famous speech about the bravery of soldiers. Next one. Amin says soldiers. All right, carry on, Amin. You still have 2 more, and then you will discover whether there is something wrong. Number 4. Krishna says number 4 is soldiers. All right, so which one is correct? Actually, it's number 3. It's journey. So he made a journey across the sound. And finally, like Krishna said, it's soldiers. And the last one, of course, is govern. All right, it's govern. All right, so I think with that, we came to an end of the last of unit number of chapter number 4. Govern, I mean, absolutely govern. So this is the end of chapter number 4, and I we still have like some time, so I just want to remind you that you can go always underneath, like in the description of this video, and you can find the whole story of America from the very beginning, from prehistory until today, like with audio and with text and everything. Of course, you can visit also my personal channel, Hamza Jatte. It's written like this, like you have it here, right? Like you have it here. So you can visit my channel. I have a lot of very interesting videos, like with tips about English, like with grammar lessons, and like a lot of interesting stuff. What shall I say about myself, Krishna? What do you want to know about me in the last minutes that we have left? So interested in. I want to show you just my channel. So in addition to Wu English, which is like the channel that you are watching right now, there is my personal channel where you will find English videos and English tips and how to learn English. And by the way, Krishna, you will find a lot of very interesting videos that will really help you learn English in my channel. So you can try them. And yeah, right. I think that will be okay. So let me just share with you the channel, and so that you can know where to go. All right, this is my personal channel. So if you want to like watch it and support later on, this is it. So for example, here, if you have no one to practice with, so I gave you 5 exercises that you can do alone to practice. This is the present simple. This is speak with me. It's an exercise that I always do on my channel. This is quantifiers. This is how to learn English fast. This is pronunciation. So there are a lot of videos that you will find very interesting. You can also see them like in the playlist. The playlist, they are more organized. So there is a playlist for class. So English tips, pronunciation, speak with me, and I think that's something else. So this is the channel. It's called Hamza Jatte. This is how you write it, right? This is how you write it. Visit me. Let me see you there. And thank you so much. Good night, everybody, and see you on Friday. Take care of yourselves.